Pam Grier was known as one of Hollywood's strongest and boldest women on screen, but behind that fearless image was someone who had faced more pain than most people could imagine. Long before she became a movie icon, she fought private battles that shaped the person she would become. From childhood trauma to industry exploitation, Pam's life was marked by struggle, survival, and an inner strength that made her unforgettable. Pam Grier was born on May 26, 1949, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Her mother, Gwendolyn, worked as a nurse, and her father, Clarence, served in the Air Force. Because of her father's military career, the family was always on the move. Pam often said she never felt like she had a real home. In 1956, when she was just 7 years old, her family moved all the way to Swindon, England. The move was a culture shock, but it also opened her eyes to something new. For the first time, she noticed that people didn't treat her differently because of her skin color. The children there didn't hate her for being black. She would later say that they were taught to hate Germans after the war, not people like her. That simple realization stayed with her forever. When the family returned to America in 1958, things changed drastically. They settled near Denver, Colorado, where life was very different from England. At just 6 years old, Pam went through something that left a deep scar on her heart. During a visit to her aunt's house in Swink, Colorado, she was attacked by a group of older boys, one of whom was her cousin. They dragged her into a laundry room and raped her. The horrifying act was interrupted by a phone repairman, who walked in and scared the boys away, but he didn't report it. He simply went back to fixing the phone as if nothing had happened. Pam was left traumatized, broken, and terrified. She stopped speaking normally and developed a stutter. 4 years, she kept it to herself, too ashamed and afraid to tell anyone what had happened. At 18, she was attacked again, this time on a date. The pain from her childhood came rushing back. Once again, she stayed silent. The fear and shame followed her well into adulthood. It would take decades before she found the courage to talk about it openly in her memoir. When Pam entered her teenage years, she faced another harsh truth: racism in America. In England, she had been treated like any other child. But in Colorado, she learned quickly that things were not the same. Buses wouldn't stop for her family. Restaurants refused to serve them. She was even turned away from swimming pools because of her race. In some clothing stores, she and her father weren't even allowed to try on clothes. But Pam came from strong ancestors. Her mother's family had escaped slavery through the Underground Railroad and found freedom in Wyoming. That legacy of survival gave Pam the courage to face the cruelty around her and taught her never to give up. At 18, Pam entered the Miss Colorado Universe pageant, hoping to win money to pay for college. She didn't win, but she caught the attention of someone important, a Hollywood contact who offered to introduce her to an agent. That single connection would change her life. Not long after, she began working as a backup singer for stars like Stevie Wonder and Sly Stone. She even got to watch Jimi Hendrix record. Encouraged by those experiences, she packed her bags and moved to Los Angeles to chase her dreams. Life in Los Angeles wasn't glamorous. It was exhausting. Pam had no money and no connections. She lied her way into a switchboard job at a casting agency and taught herself the phone system on the spot. To survive, she worked multiple jobs as a receptionist, hostess, and even a nude model for art students. She could only afford one meal a day, often sleeping just a few hours each night. Between 1967 and 1970, she worked more than 40 different jobs. Every role she took wasn't about fame but about survival. Back in Denver, Pam had been bullied for her mixed heritage. She was part black, Hispanic, Filipino, Chinese, and Cheyenne. The teasing and name-calling had been brutal, and sometimes physical. To protect herself, she started learning martial arts and self-defense. These skills gave her back a sense of power and confidence she had lost as a child. Later in life, they would become part of her screen identity. In 1968, at just 19, Pam called the Hollywood agent she'd met at the pageant and said she was ready to work. With only $200 in her pocket, she moved into a small apartment with 2 other women. Her first break came when she was cast as an extra in the film Beyond the Valley of the Dolls in 1970. She only made $25, but she spent every minute on set observing and learning. It became her acting classroom. But breaking into Hollywood wasn't easy, especially for a woman of color. She was constantly offered degrading or stereotypical roles, tribal women, background dancers, and exotic villains. The pay was terrible, and the treatment was worse. Then, her luck changed when producer Roger Corman noticed her at a party. He was impressed by her strength and charisma and offered her a role in The Big Doll House. Pam trained hard for the part, building muscle and practicing martial arts. She was ready to prove herself. However, before the movie began filming, she faced another horrifying moment. A powerful producer told her that she had to sleep with him if she wanted a role. When she refused, he tried to assault her. She fought him off and escaped, shaken but determined. She thought about quitting Hollywood but decided not to. Instead, she turned her anger into fuel. Every role she took afterward became a form of resistance. The Big Doll House became a surprise hit in 1971, earning $10 million from a budget of only $125,000. Pam played a fearless inmate who did her own stunts, including a grueling mud wrestling scene that took 3 days to film. The success of the movie made her a breakout star and launched a new wave of women-led action films. Later that year, she played a sadistic warden in Women in Cages. It was controversial, raw, and shocking. She didn't enjoy the nude scenes and felt tricked by the studio, but the movie made her unforgettable. In 1972, she starred in The Big Birdcage, where she played a revolutionary who plotted a daring prison escape. The action was intense, and Pam did her own stunts, proving she was as tough as the characters she portrayed. Then came Scream Blackula Scream in 1973, where she played a voodoo priestess. She refused to let the role turn into a stereotype, insisting that her character be portrayed with respect and strength. That same year, Pam became a Hollywood legend with Coffee. She played a nurse who turns vigilante after her sister is destroyed by drugs. The movie made over $2 million on a small budget and turned Pam into the face of female power in cinema. She even came up with one of the movie's most famous moments, hiding razor blades in her afro during a fight scene. That one act became a symbol of her creativity and fearlessness. In 1974, Foxy Brown hit theaters and changed everything. Pam's character was fierce, intelligent, and deadly. In one unforgettable scene, she took brutal revenge on the man who killed her boyfriend. The movie made millions and proved that women could be action stars too. From there, she continued making bold choices, starring in The Arena as a female gladiator and in Sheba Baby as a private detective who fought the mob with her own karate skills. By the mid-1970s, Pam had become a household name, but Hollywood was changing. The era of blaxploitation films, movies centered on powerful black characters, was fading. Many studios stopped making them, and Pam's career slowed down. Still, she kept fighting for roles that mattered. In 1981, she took on a dark and gritty part in Fort Apache, the Bronx alongside Paul Newman. Her character was complex, damaged, and unforgettable, showing that Pam could handle serious dramatic roles. In 1983, she appeared in a Disney movie called Something Wicked This Way Comes. But the studio ended up cutting most of her scenes after poor test screenings. Disney executives claimed the public wasn't ready to see a black woman in a magical fantasy role. It broke her heart, but she didn't let it stop her. During the mid to late 1980s, Pam found success on television. She played Detective Valerie Gordon on Miami Vice, bringing both toughness and heart to the role. Off-screen, she began directing plays at UCLA and even worked with famous filmmaker Roman Polanski to learn more about directing. She created an all-black version of Frankie and Johnny, determined to show that black actors could lead any type of story. Pam's love life was often filled with heartbreak. She dated basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who wanted her to convert to Islam and give up her independence. She refused, and they broke up. She later dated comedian Freddie Prinze, who tragically took his own life after calling her the night before. The guilt haunted her for years. Then came Richard Pryor, the brilliant but troubled comedian. Pam discovered he was secretly using cocaine, and the drug ended up harming her, too. When she found traces of it in her body during a doctor's visit, She realized how dangerous their relationship had become and left him. She later saw his addiction destroy him in a fire accident. She also had a brief relationship with basketball star Wilt Chamberlain, who later wrote about their private encounter in his book, listing her among the many women he claimed to have slept with. Pam felt humiliated and called it exploitation. She said no one cared about how being used like that made her feel. By 1988, Pam Grier seemed to have everything under control. She was in great shape, healthy, and still working in Hollywood. She ran 6 miles every day, avoided drugs and alcohol, and lived a disciplined life. She was planning her future, dreaming about marriage, children, and a new home. She thought the pain of her past was finally behind her. But she didn't know that the biggest battle of her life was still to come, one that would test her strength more than anything else ever had. Pam Grier's story is one of pain and power, of a woman who faced cruelty, exploitation, and loss but refused to be broken. Every scar she carried became a symbol of survival. She didn't just play strong women on screen, she was one in real life. Her journey through Hollywood showed that real heroes don't wear capes. They endure, they fight, and they rise again, even when the world tries to tear them down. Pam Grier's life took a terrifying turn when a phone call changed everything. What was supposed to be a normal checkup turned into a nightmare. The doctors told her she had stage 4 cervical cancer. It wasn't something small or early. It was advanced, dangerous, and spreading fast. They gave her only 16 to 18 months to live. They handed her a thick folder filled with medical papers and told her to start preparing her will. She couldn't even begin treatment immediately because her body needed time to heal from the surgery she had just gone through. That meant she had to wait 6 long weeks while the cancer kept growing inside her. It was a terrifying time filled with silence and fear. Even with this devastating news, Pam didn't stop working. She was filming the movie Above the Law with Steven Seagal when she got the diagnosis, but she kept showing up on set every day. She didn't tell anyone what she was going through. She wore wigs to hide her hair loss, forced herself to smile, and acted as if nothing was wrong. She was fighting through pain, weakness, and exhaustion, but she refused to let it stop her. She pushed herself through rounds of chemotherapy while performing in front of cameras. Her mother had been a nurse, and that knowledge helped Pam find ways to manage her pain without becoming dependent on opioids. That took enormous inner strength. But what hurt the most wasn't the physical pain, it was emotional. The man she loved didn't even show up for her first chemotherapy session. After that, he disappeared completely for 5 years, leaving her to face the hardest fight of her life all alone. Pam later said that cancer reveals who your real friends are, and in her case, it was a painful lesson. Then things got even worse. In 1990, while Pam was still battling cancer, her sister Krista died of breast cancer. Pam loved her deeply and had always seen her as more than just a sister. Krista had worked as a flight attendant, and Pam believed her illness was caused by the toxic chemicals she was exposed to during her years of flying. Losing Krista broke Pam's heart, but the pain didn't stop there. Krista's son, Freddie, couldn't handle the grief of losing his mother and ended his own life shortly after. Before he died, he had tried to reach out to Pam, but his words had been filled with anger and threats, and she was too scared to meet him. When she found out what had happened, she collapsed in her hotel room, crying uncontrollably as the police arrived at the scene. She couldn't stop blaming herself, and the guilt haunted her for years. All of this tragedy happened while Pam herself was still fighting to stay alive. One night, while alone at home in the San Fernando Valley, Pam was watching PBS and came across a documentary called Healing and the Mind with Bill Moyes. It featured a Chinese woman who had a large tumor on her back. After weeks of acupuncture, herbal medicine, pressure therapy, and meditation, the tumor disappeared. That story touched Pam deeply. It gave her hope. She decided to combine traditional Eastern medicine with her Western cancer treatments. Her doctor introduced her to a Chinese herbalist who gave her special herbs to cleanse her system and told her to drink hot tea with her meals to help her body heal. Pam also started doing yoga, practiced meditation, and surrounded herself with nature. She believed that clean air, fresh water, and peace could help her body fight back. Slowly, she began to feel stronger. Her doctors were shocked when they discovered her cancer was shrinking. Eventually, They told her she was in remission. That was more than 35 years ago, and Pam Grier is still alive today. She turned her battle into a mission, becoming an advocate for cancer awareness and early detection. She often tells people that miracles can happen when you refuse to give up and fight with all your heart. But even after beating cancer, Pam still had deeper emotional wounds. Years later, when she began therapy, she realized that her pain had started long before the illness. She had been carrying trauma since she was 6 years old. That was when she was sexually assaulted by a group of boys. Then, at 18, she was attacked again by someone she trusted. She had never spoken about these events before. She had buried them deep inside her heart. But therapy forced her to face it all, the fear, the shame, the anger. She realized she had been living with post-traumatic stress disorder for decades. Suddenly, everything made sense. All those strong, fierce women she played on screen weren't just characters, they were reflections of her real life. They were her armor. Acting was how she survived, how she released her pain, and how she protected herself. Every time she played a fighter or a survivor, she was telling her own story. When she later wrote her memoir Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts, she revealed that the bravery people saw in her movies came from real pain. She hadn't been pretending to be fearless, she truly was. In 1996, her career took a new turn. After years of small roles and limited opportunities, Pam appeared in Tim Burton's strange sci-fi film Mars Attacks. She played Louise Williams, a tough, bus-driving mother trying to protect her family during an alien invasion. She worked alongside big stars like Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, and Pierce Brosnan. Even though the film didn't make much money, it helped Pam return to the spotlight. That performance opened the door for something even bigger. In 1997, everything changed for her. Director Quentin Tarantino, who had always admired her 1970s films, wrote a script just for her. He adapted the novel Rum Punch into the movie Jackie Brown and rewrote the main character to fit Pam perfectly. He didn't want a white actress, he wanted Pam Grier. She played Jackie, a flight attendant caught in a dangerous world of smuggling and crime. The role was smart, powerful, and full of emotion. Tarantino filled the movie with small nods to her old films like Coffee and Foxy Brown, celebrating her as a trailblazer. The movie made $74 million on a $12 million budget, and Pam was nominated for a Golden Globe for her incredible performance. Critics praised her comeback, saying she brought both strength and vulnerability to the role. Her co-star Robert Foster even earned an Oscar nomination. After years of being ignored by Hollywood, Pam Grier was finally back where she belonged. In 1998, she continued her success with the Showtime series Lynx, where she played the intelligent and determined head of a political organization focused on children's rights. The show, set in a Washington, D.C. bar, mixed humor and social issues, tackling racism, poverty, and justice. Pam's real-life activism and passion gave her character depth and authenticity. The show ran until 2000 and earned several nominations. It proved that Pam could transition from action films to thought-provoking drama with ease. In 1999, she starred in the dark teen movie Jawbreaker, playing Detective Vera Cruz, who investigates a group of high school girls hiding a deadly secret. The movie was edgy and bold, and Pam brought a sense of realism and gravity that balanced its dark humor. That same year, she lent her voice to the animated show Happily Ever After, teaching children lessons about kindness and inner beauty. It showed that she could inspire audiences of all ages. She also appeared in Holy Smoke, a psychological drama with Kate Winslet and Harvey Keitel, directed by Jane Campion. It was a quieter, emotional role that showed her versatility as an actress capable of powerful performances even in subtle moments. When the 2000s began, Pam didn't slow down. Between 2002 and 2004, she guest-starred on Law & Order, SVU as prosecutor Claudia Williams, earning 2 NAACP nominations. Even with limited screen time, she made every scene memorable. Then in 2004, she joined Showtime's The L Word, playing Kit Porter, the older sister of one of the main characters. Kit was a musician, struggling with addiction but trying to find peace and love. Over 6 seasons, she became one of the most beloved characters on the show. Her emotional scenes about love, loss, and resilience touched many hearts. One of the most powerful moments came when her character turned down a marriage proposal, saying that people she loved most weren't even allowed to marry legally. It was a powerful statement that reflected Pam's belief in equality and justice. She stayed on the L Word until it ended in 2009. When the show returned years later as the L Word, Generation Q, she couldn't rejoin because she was already busy filming other projects. In 2019, she starred in the comedy Bless This Mess, playing the town sheriff in a rural Nebraska community. She brought warmth, humor, and strength to her character, reminding viewers that she could still light up a screen with ease. That same year, she appeared in Poms, a comedy about a group of older women who form a cheerleading team. Pam played Olive, a 70-year-old who wasn't afraid to dance and perform in front of a crowd. Critics said the movie was predictable, but everyone agreed that Pam's energy was magnetic. She showed that age could never slow her down. In 2010, Pam published her autobiography, Foxy, My Life in 3 Acts. The book sold over 100,000 copies and shocked readers with its honesty. She opened up about her childhood trauma, her battles with cancer, and her relationships, including the painful details about her time with comedian Richard Pryor and how his drug addiction affected her both emotionally and physically. It was raw, heartbreaking, and deeply inspiring. Her honesty sparked conversations about survival, forgiveness, and self-worth. The success of the book led to plans for a biopic about her life called Pam. Jay Farrower was chosen to play Richard Pryor after Pam heard his impression of him and said it sounded exactly like the real thing. The script, written by Benny Richburg, was said to be emotional and unfiltered, just like her story. Even though Jackie Brown earned her 16 award nominations, Pam never received an Oscar nomination. In 2016, IndieWire listed her among the greatest actors never nominated for an Academy Award. It hurt, especially since John Travolta had earned one for Pulp Fiction, another Tarantino film that revived a career. Pam didn't let the lack of recognition stop her. She kept working, kept inspiring, and kept breaking barriers. Actress Halle Berry once said her own career wouldn't have been possible without Pam Grier. That statement said everything about Pam's influence on generations of women in Hollywood. Over the years, false stories began circulating about her, including claims that she had been banned from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air after a guest appearance in 1994. The truth was simple: she filmed her role, played her part as Janice Robertson, and left. There was no drama, no ban, just gossip. In 2018, during the rise of the Me Too movement, Pam spoke about rejecting Harvey Weinstein decades earlier. Back in the 1970s, when he was still building his power, she had turned him down, refusing to let him exploit her. Later, she lost a role in an Amazon series with Robert De Niro and Julianne Moore because the project collapsed during Weinstein's downfall. But she didn't stay silent. She gave TED Talks about surviving cancer, sexual assault, and trauma, encouraging others to speak up and fight back. Even today, Pam Grier continues to inspire. In May 2024, at 76 years old, she appeared on The Jennifer Hudson Show and shared a funny story about filming the 2001 horror movie Bones with Snoop Dogg. She laughed as she recalled how Snoop once fainted after meeting her because he was so starstruck. Their friendship has lasted more than 20 years, and her charm and confidence are as strong as ever. Pam Grier's journey, from trauma and pain to survival and triumph, proves that real power isn't about fame or beauty. It's about strength, resilience, and never giving up, no matter how dark life gets.